What makes you angry?
Thanks for asking that, Vivek. So, in what I do, like I've spent the last 10 years of my life in the people space, and it's the what makes me angry is again very centered towards my space. What makes me really angry is that we, as the people function, have historically been the laggards when it comes to adoption of technology. We've always been that function to which technology hits the last, right? And we adopt technology the last, right? And
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Angry Coach. Today, I am extremely proud to have Ranaq along with us. Ranaq heads the people agenda at WorkIndia. It's an organization that is working to provide employment to so much of the India generation. I'll let Ranaq speak about this. Ranaq starts off his career in a very interesting space. He's a CA by profession, and he's a CA who's converted himself to the people side of things. Ranaq's been an entrepreneur. He has worked with a lot of tech companies focusing on the people agenda, and from there built his career up to today heading the people space for Work India. Ranak, welcome to the Angry Coach.
thank you for that warm introduction, Vivek, and happy and excited to be here and having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. Ranak, let me start off with this question to you. What makes you angry?
Thanks for asking that, Vivek. So, in what I do, like I've spent the last 10 years of my life in the people space, and it's the what makes me angry is again very centered towards my space. What makes me really angry is that we, as the people function, have historically been the laggards when it comes to adoption of technology. We've always been that function to which technology hits the last, right? And we adopt technology the last, right? And what I'm working towards on an everyday basis and I've shaped my career is making that small dent in making sure or trying my best to make sure that our people function does not still remain laggards in today's world, and that we become those forefronts who lead and embrace the new technology and the ever-changing world that's happening. Right? So broadly, yes, our propensity to stay away from technology in the people space is what really makes me angry. Right?
That's a very fair point. I have observed this everywhere. And what I'm hearing from you is the lack of technology propensity or the lack of tech adoption in at least our HR fraternity is something that makes you very angry.
Yes, yes.
Now, I'm very curious. I would like to understand why do you think this is the case? Why does people or HR tech lag its adoption?
So it's to understand that I think we have to just go a little back, right, and look at the evolution of the people, the HR function. Right, it first started off as personal department, right, which charters of the world came up with. It was just a way to get people in time to office and make them do a bunch of work, right, where labor
Right.
was always available. Then the HR function came in where people started looking at performance, the whole bell curve, performance evaluation, PMS, all these things came in, right? And over the last 10 odd years is when it has evolved to now the people function, right? Where it's not just looked on as a cost center. People are realizing that it's much more than cost. It's basically a revenue unlock for you, right? And because of the fact that historically it was looked on as just a cost center, it's just cost for me and means to an end. The funding or the budget that was allocated to the people function was always lowest, right? It was you start with where the money is. You start with sales team, marketing, right? Everything, all the money went to where I can get revenue, right? It's only in the last 10 odd years is when people have started to realize and look at the people function as not just a cost center, where this is actually people are the ones who are driving that revenue, and hence the budget has started coming in. And it's just because of these lack of funds, lack of that the budgets. That's why the technology wasn't built because You can build a technology, but who's going to buy it, right? Because of that, there weren't enough people also, who were skilling themselves on people technology. It was always like SAPs and all of that, right? So evolution of all of this over the last 30, 40, I think it's 40, 50 years, that has led to where we are today, where there's a lot of change that's happening today right now. People are actively building products for the people's piece, right? A lot of people are listening to Nikhil Kamat's podcast, and some international podcasts where everyone is saying that the HR recruiting function is so unsolved. It's such a massive problem in the recruiting. There's so much money. Like people are saying, they're trillion-dollar companies that can be built. The whole ecosystem rather is a trillion-dollar opportunity where you can solve for hiring, making hiring more proficient. Right. So good to see all of these changes happening. But over time, rather the answer is that like, it's just a matter of time where money wasn't being deployed, and now that money is being deployed, you see a lot of changes, a lot of technology, a lot of evolution. People have also now started actively working towards and building a career in technology side of HR.
Correct. Correct. That's a very fair thing. And what I'm hearing from you is the way the function has evolved, it's traditionally always been a cost center and it's traditionally always tried to keep the cost down. So, therefore, hey, why implement an HRMS when you'd rather go for a CRM or something else? Those market facing, market
Yes.
sales, revenue driven functions would perhaps gain a lot more budgets.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's very fair. And the entire recruitment part, I think that's a very fair part that you are sharing, is such a big mess out there. It's so manual, still CVs moving around in old formats that people are trying to get to. Um, and there are perhaps trillion-dollar companies that are waiting to get built over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, at least the ecosystem is definitely a trillion-dollar problem for sure.
Are you looking at building one of those ones, clearly, given you are solving this recruitment problem as well?
Yeah, so the space that we are at WorkIndia, at least let me talk about. We are a marketplace, right, for 25.8 blue collared employers of India. Right? Here, we are using technology to leverage jobs, right? So all of these people who are in rural, tier two, tier three cities who would otherwise have no access to these jobs now through the Work India platform, right? You can just come in, you'll see. Let's say you want to get a job as a cook, right? You just come to the platform, say that I'm a cook, right? And all these jobs come up, and directly you can just call people, right? So it's technology that Work India platform is a leverage, which is just connecting people from two different states, vastly different regions, right? Which otherwise just wouldn't have been possible, right? Somebody from, let's say, Delhi or the remotest parts of Gurgaon can just click a button and get a job in Tamil Nadu, right? And then come over and start working, right? So this cross pollination of jobs, um, that's happening today, right? And especially we're seeing even jobs are opening up entire 2, 3 small cities, right? Whereas these people otherwise would never have got access to laborers from rest of the country, right? So yeah, Work India at least is playing a significant part, again through technology, right? It's just because there's tech, because there's these tools, that this is available and it is possible.
It's a very fair statement. Very, very fair. I'd agree with you. Also, I have an observation around this, right? And I go back to the people joining the HR function as well. You're a little exception since you come in from a CA background. But for example, from my B school, there would be a separation of people, right? One subject everybody would take up in the second year would always be marketing, marketing or something like that. Now, the second optional one would vary a lot. Some people who were core into finance will take up finance. Some people would take up, for example, tech like IT, and a few people would take up HR as well as their core specialization. And one unique thing that we used to find was that the people who were taking up HR would naturally be very against systems and technology and in general, and they'll always wait for the geeky kid to tell them what to do with something versus being a very natural adopter. So that's what we found, but this is around 20 years back. I'm sure the environment has changed very significantly now.
It is. And again, the answer goes back to what I said previously, right? Because they stayed away from tech because they know it in their hearts that what's the point of me, building my tech capabilities? Because when I go to the organization, there is not going to be an HR tech. It's going to be pen, papers, Excel sheets, or whatever systems it is, right? Whereas now it's tech first, right? Now Companies
Yes.
pretty much in job descriptions now it's written that you have to know, let's say, a Darwinbox or an Oracle or a PeopleSoft or Workday and so on, right? So that the
Yes.
companies itself are going tech forward now. Very largely it's happening because again in those days, right? Technology wasn't in the forefront in these companies, right? That's why these people, they knew that what's the point in learning the tech? What's the point in me developing this skill? Because when I go and get a job, these skills are not really going to be utilized, right? And that built up the whole ecosystem everywhere across the world. Right? That they stayed away from technology; they rather focused on doing things manually, right? Taking the manual route out, and that's why like even the flourishment of technology didn't happen in these spaces. Whereas today, I think the role is completely reversed. Right now, in job descriptions, you actually see as a must have used HRMS, must have used those large HRMS, must know Tableau. Like I mean, I'm very surprised now. In fact, even when I put out a job, right, I'll always put must have data proficiency in it, must know design thinking, must have used HRMS, right? Because the company is now leading with that, right? So the folks now who are coming out of these B schools know this for a fact that if I have to get a job here, I need to be technologically proficient, right? And that the mindset, when you're going with that, you will spend a lot of time in learning these tools, picking up analytics skills, right? People analytics is like a massive, one of the fastest growing fields, in fact the fastest growing field in the HR space today, right? So uh, people who are just graduating and with a B degree, they will just go and pick up an analytics skill because they know that that will give me a significant edge over somebody else, right? Just going and say, "Hey, I know analytics," or do a course in people analytics, let's say, right? So that shift that's happening today, and the shift is largely again going back to what I said before. It's primarily because now there's money in the sector. There's money that's being put. That because of that money, it's inviting tools, technology, and then people now who are coming into this field know that I have to be proficient with these, right? So it's positive in a way. It's net positive. Again, what has made me angry is it's
It's
taking
taken
such a
such a long time.
long time, but it's yeah, but it's good
What
headwinds,
I'm Good tail.
good
So what I'm
tailwinds
hearing
rather.
from you is companies are naturally asking for these skills now. You have to be proficient at data sciences. You have to be proficient at, let's say, some innovation framework like a design thinking or anything else. You should have, you should be comfortable using HRMS or any of those platforms to be able to add meaningful value to the current role. Even in the HR function, which was traditionally thought of just as people and emotions and just handling conflicts in an organization.
Right. I'll also double click on that. Like along with all of this, right? This is something that I had done at MPL. Something I see a lot of leaders also doing is also taking product sense and design thinking sense into an angle, right? Especially if it's somebody who has to come in and sort of design a new, let's say, process, right? Especially people in the L&D function, right? They'll have to do a lot of design work. They'll have to think from a very product lens also. Right? So I've seen that also being tested along with numbers, along with technology. How savvy are you thinking of things as product? How savvy are you at thinking of people also as products? How savvy are you at problem solving? And also at the end of the day, how much design thinking can you do? Right? Because back then you could just do a one fit all solution. Now you can't do a one fit all solution, right? You have to make personas of people, right? You will, in a large company, it's not homogeneous at all, right? There are segments, there are cohorts. You have to do a user mapping, and as the people practitioner, the solutions that you give will have to be different for those different cohorts. Will have to be different for those different set of users, right? So these are the things that's coming in. It's 10% at best, probably, if that, but it's still good at 10%, right? That means again, the next 5 6 years, you'll have this become norm, right? And then there's going to be another massive evolution that's happening in who a people practitioner is. It's not always, the people who don't know what to do, they take up HR. It's going to be a conscious choice to take up HR.
It's very fair. Ranak, since you're talking about tech and HR, I'm going to delve on this topic. I think it's very close to me as well. Um, what are some emerging trends in technology that you're seeing for HR? Um, what are some new areas?
Okay, so there are. I can segment this into various factors, right? One, not I won't say emerging, but it's it's sort of stabilized now, which is HRMS, right? I'll share a personal story. When I joined Darwinbox way back 2017, right, when HRIS itself, nobody knew what the full form was or what it was. I had to field questions as HRMS क्यों चाहिए हमें तो Excel में रखा है so, right? From today it being the norm, right? It being that I need an HRMS. Let's talk how you build on top of an HRMS, right? So one segment definitely like which has sort of plateaued but has become the norm is the whole HRMS. What is an HRMS? It's where data is there. Data is there and your processes and attendances, all of it is there in one place and the workflows basically work, right? But what's happening now is people who are building special tools on top of that, right? What it means is now HRMS typically is like a one fit all solution to everything, but it's not a specialist in anything, right? I'll give you an example, right? Employee experiences. Now that is like the talk of the town, right? Everybody says that employee experience matters, and it is because it's so difficult to hire. Now, if you hired somebody, you want that person to stay. Now, an HRMS will never really give you a great solution to be able to judge the pulse of the organization, to be able to say who's happy, who's not, to be able to predict who can possibly leave, right? And so that gives you flags and indicators that you can go and talk and try to retain those people. Right now, those are those tools which have now broken away from the HRMSs. They are building a lot of tools in employee experiences and learning and development. Some which are using AI. Now, all of that plug into your this recruitment also. There's hiring. Hiring is a massive, massive problem. Like I said, there are people who are trying to leverage artificial intelligence to make that process even 1% better, right? These are these tools which are coming up now. What they do is they are independently separate tools which function on their own. They specialize in that one specific niche, but
Correct.
they sit on top of the HRMS. They pull the data from the HRMS, do their thing, and then feed the data back to the HRMS. So this is something that's largely coming up a lot. Experiences, hiring, learning, and development. And also something that I'm seeing now that's emerging is AI, right? That's today's the world of AI. Today's the world of ChatGPT. Um, I won't say it's really trickled down into our HR world, but it's good to see that a lot of people in the HR function, people function, are already using ChatGPT because what we guys have figured out is along with our daily work, right? We do a lot of in a way marketing work also, right? When you make a policy, you have to roll it out to the entire organization. Like now, let's say an organization where there are 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people. That's as good as a segment of any marketing expert, right? And we traditionally, and when I say we, I'm talking of the people function, probably haven't been the best at this skill, like we've been laggards at technology also. But now ChatGPT is like a level playing field for all of us, right? Because you ask those questions and it give you beautifully written content. It can write emails for us. It can do sort of like even make posters for us. Amazing work, which is like very level A kind of work, which we could never have done it, right? So I'm seeing a lot of people really using ChatGPT for their everyday communications, marketing side of things. And there are tools which are coming up now which are leveraging this. Right? So, for example, I know of a tool which through ChatGPT has consumed your entire company's policies and processes and documents and become like a brain, right, of an HR brain of a company where anybody can come and ask questions and searching its database is going to give you those answers. For example, like someone comes in and says, what's my leave policy, right? Otherwise, it would have been some, HR practitioner like you some the HR, either you try to find it and you can't do it, you go to your HR, you raise a ticket on the help desk, it takes 3 days to get the answer. 50% of the time you don't even get an answer, right? Or even if you do this, there's some intern or someone
Obscure
sitting who's giving
document
you these
somewhere.
answers, which now the AI just gives you instantly at the click of a button. Right? So a lot of those inventions have happened, and they are all built natively on top of either your HRMS or even better, they're built on top of Slack, right? Your communication tool. You just go and ask it, and immediately you get an answer. Right? It's so beautiful. It works so fluidly. Uh, I know a couple of companies who've done that, and it's very early days right now. My sense is in the future, this is really going to get expanded. HRMS, all of this is going to consolidate into one AI machine, AI brain for every company, right? Where you come in just through words or through voice, you just instruct it and you get everything done, right? So even for LD, right? You don't you just go and say, hey, what am I supposed to learn today? And automatically the AI knows what you've done, what are you supposed to do, right? And tells you, hey, consume this. This is what you need to do, things like that. So Yeah, I mean, exciting times. I'm just very excited at all the new tools and technologies that's coming up today.
That's very fair. So I think what I'm hearing from you is, and I'll focus on AI first. I think what I'm hearing from you is it becomes this place which allows people to easily query whatever they want, and the platform basically gives them a meaningful answer for them. Right. And it's very relevant. What is my leave policy versus raising a ticket or reading some document somewhere? Immediately get an answer back. Or a very simple question that I used to have during my working days: how many leaves do I have left? So immediately it does all the maths, perhaps behind the scenes, because that policy is fed into it. It has some access to my leave application system and is able to give it to back to me in a meaningfully consumed way. And that's a very powerful thing because it gives the employee the power versus leaving it elsewhere in different silos.
Correct, correct. And so that's typically like what is called a co-pilot right now. People are calling, like Bing has released a co-pilot. I saw a co-pilot for some other function, and I see that since it will go to it's going to be co-pilots for HR, right? Where for the HR team itself, you will have a co-pilot, which is basically it has the entire information of the company, everybody's information there, your policies, processes, your performance process, L&D, growth, budget, salary, everything is there. Just imagine the power it unlocks, right? Anything you want about anybody, you can ask, right? Just simple as a who takes the most amount of leaves, let's say you ask, and the system will, with all this information, just tell you, hey, this person who has, grown the fastest in the company, you query to the co-pilot tells you, right? All of this today is possible, but it's just very time consuming today. Now it's just a tool that can sort of do all of this for you.
Right, right. No, I think that's a very fair point as well. It starts becoming a co pilot to all the people in the function or in the organization.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen any use in the hiring function, for example? There are a lot of platforms out there, but what kind of role will it play in hiring, in learning and development? Any thoughts? And I know this is very blue ocean space at the moment, but love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think, like I said, hiring is that one big problem which everybody's tried to solve but couldn't. Even the best of the best, Google came in and basically said, I can't do this, and they exited. Right? They sort of moved out. But now AI is going to solve that big problem. See, the biggest problem in hiring is always that you want the right fit. Like that's the biggest one. You'll get in India especially. The problem is never lack of candidates, really, right? It's the supply side is never really the problem. So you get a lot of people, you get a lot of candidates, right? Sometimes so many that I'm missing out on who's the best from here, right? So problem is always that matching problem exists, whereas the TA person, right, has to sit through and go through hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of CVs, right, and then make that human judgment call: is this person even a fit that I can move to the next round? Right? Forget the entire hiring chain. This itself is a massive problem, right? And the thing is, if you can replicate what the human mind is doing through AI, this problem can actually be solved, right? And I'm seeing some solutions that's coming up, which through AI is basically understanding that this is the job, these are those requirements, right? Previously, the problem was it was very static, that only a person could say, I need this, and the machine was doing that, right? But that's not how it works. Like, there's always moving parts to it, right? That's where the AI now comes in. The AI, using all its intelligence, is also able to move out from those five things that you tell it's supposed to do, and also think more and less. Right. So it's early days, but I've seen some tools where you sort of train it on the kind of past hires you've done. Right. Train it on who's been a successful hire for you, and it learns those patterns. And then you tell it, for this job, I need X amount of experience, this college, blah blah blah. This is the background demographic. You can very nicely actually screen through candidates, right? But again, it's only like 30-40%, 50% efficient today. When it gets to 100%, like that's where probably that $1 trillion, $1 billion company one day will come in. But yeah, in hiring, basically this. Another one is, which is very interesting, is I've seen companies now able to, through video interviews, right? What they're doing is they're facial mapping your face, your features, your expressions, because see, words can lie, but your eyes and your face actually is very difficult to do that, right? So while you're saying that, hey, I'm very empathetic, right? But your face is actually telling, I couldn't give, two damns about it. So I've seen tools which, while the interview is going on, or even there are some tools where there's no human-led interview; it's a machine asking questions, and someone on the other side is just talking about it. And then on the background, you're analyzing the voice, you're analyzing the video, and actually telling the truth that, hey, whatever this person is saying is actually true. This person is this. He or she is lying here. He or she is truthful here. Sounds a little creepy and scary, but obviously consent is taken before doing all of this. Video interviews are going to be a big one in hiring because it just solves for time, right? Every interview goes on for at least 30 to 45, at least 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes even more, right? Now, over time, that builds up to a lot of hours, especially from the leadership and managers. And then at the end of the day, you're rejecting that candidate, right? But so these tools are really helping, giving back time productivity and also sort of being that filter check I've seen happening. Yeah, I mean, L&D again. L&D, I've seen even now AI and ChatGPT is helping massively because one of the big things of so L&D has two parts, right? One is what is it? Sorry, when do someone learn? What should they learn? And then there's the content side of things, right? L&D has a massive content creation. Now, ChatGPT is actually beautifully, and I've done that myself, where I've given it these are the competencies on which somebody needs to learn. Right? They are at a 3, they should go to 5. These are the company's values. These are the books you should take inspiration from. It will give you a beautiful learning content. And so now, and my friends also, they'll every day use ChatGPT to sort of make the content, which they previously were either typing out or Googling it. They use ChatGPT. There are some other tools I think they found which beautifully gives you your content. What it does is what all of this is doing is it's really unlocking the human potential, right? The time spent in writing goes away. The time spent of thinking is like exponentially goes up. Right? They are spending more time thinking on what are the topics of L&D I should do, and then ChatGPT sort of takes care of actually writing the content. It does it to an extent now, but over time it's just going to extrapolate out where the AI tools just basically builds the whole content side. You just have to think on who needs what. Your training needs analysis, which is basically analyzing when somebody needs L&D and what learning interventions they need, rather spending so many hours and building content, drawing pictures, drawing all those things, right? Which is like 50-60% of L&D's work.
I think very fair inputs and very valid ones. What I'm basically gathering from you is that this is one tech which is going to which has a lot of potential. So there is a lot of uh, opportunities that people, companies, etc., have in this space, and that needs to be tapped in. And second thing that I'm hearing from you is um, there's a lot of power that it brings in, which can solve so many unsolved problems or so many problems that we had resigned ourselves to in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for sharing this, Ranak. I am going to ask one more thought from you. And I know you put a post out on LinkedIn very recently on this one as well. So that's why I want to tap into this one. If I'm a young manager working in the HR space for my organization, I want to sell the new technology. I want to sell a new initiative which needs an investment on tech. How do I go about getting my management's buy-in?
Right, right. Thanks for asking that, Vivek. I didn't realize the post will resonate with so many people. But this actually comes from something that happened at WorkIndia itself. Whereas when I came in, I just came in full of josh, full of energy, and said, hey, we don't have a tool for OKRs, we don't have a tool for performance. Hey, I've used this tool before. Why don't we use it? Right? I did a whole fancy demonstration and all of that. But at the end, I just simple question like where's the ROI, right? I couldn't explain that because from a leadership standpoint, what we sort of mistake in thinking is that they share our perspective, they share our points of view. That's not necessarily true because like, their leadership, they're thinking of revenues, always thinking of ROI, and it's very difficult for them to sort of see the world from your lens, right? What our job should be ideally is to make them see the world from our lens and how then it unlocks ROI, right? So what I did was I didn't take it as a no. I said, okay, no, I just have to show them how the ROI comes. And the simple way to do that is I just did the whole thing offline. It's difficult, it's painful, but I know it's for only a quarter. I did the entire thing. The whole OKR setting was done on Excel sheets. The whole check-in process was done on Excel sheets. Yes, I had to spend a significant amount of time organizing everybody, making sure everybody does it, reminders, emails, right? Lot of lot of those work, right? But what it did was ultimately everybody at the end of 3 months, everybody was very very clear that hey, this was a success. There is definitely good things happening. What's the cost, right? And the cost in the HR space is typically not so much. It's always very reasonable. So the ROI is very simple, right? So the conversation I had very recently now, it was in fact was the founder saying that let's bring the tool. This is a success. I'm seeing that you're just spending a lot of your time in doing this. Let's just bring the tool. Let's do it through the tool. So my advice to everybody who gets tech and wants to bring in tech, remember that you have to show them the world from your eyes and then get into ROI, right? Don't just make a presentation and say, hey, this is how it's going to be. Sometimes it works, but in most times you're not really going to get the buy-in. It's always better to do a demo or do it offline, do it on a very small scale, involve them in the process. That's very important, right? And then make it a success, right? And then just go and say, hey, why don't I get this full-fledged and tool? You've already seen benefits. Now that I'm doing it offline, these are the problems that I have through the tool. I'm going to solve those problems, and the ROI is going to be more, right? Worst case, what will happen while doing this offline process or on a demo process, you realize that it actually doesn't work, right? Then a net positive for you, because otherwise you would have got that tool, spend so much money, and then realize shit, it doesn't work, right? You might as well do it offline, and then either it's a positive for you. If it doesn't work, then look it as an opportunity gain for you, right? And it has happened. Like I've seen at Box where people have spent crores, very big companies, bringing in the tech, and then within 3 months they come back and say, hey, no one's using it. The reality is no, the reality was that 90% of the workforce was on the field, right? And they didn't even have access to the computers. So how will they use a desktop based tool? So the answer was going back to the drawing board and actually building an app and making it app first, right? So whereas if they had just piloted this, they would have got that answer.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I think that's a very good framework. It's also what design thinking basically brings us to do, right? Which is, hey, you know what, prototype, do something quick, dirty, see what happens over there. And then if things work out, take it to the next level. Whereas what a lot of young professionals end up doing is they want to buy in for that tool or that platform or that massive investment, which nobody really wants to get into at that stage. So what I'm hearing from you is do it quick, do it dirty. Yes, it will be a little messy initially, but it helps build that case for a larger investment.
Yes, absolutely.
These are very fair thoughts. And I did not realize that we've gone into so much of time. It's been such a fantastic conversation. Let me switch you over to the second part, right? And my thought is a CA and an HR function. I mean, how on earth did you marry these two?
So yeah, Vivek, thanks for asking that. Howard, so why I'm a CA is because I come from a family of CAs. Right? Growing up, that's all I heard. The stories from your father, the stories from your grandfather, everything is all about finance and numbers, right? So when pick a time to choose a career at class 11, right? Which I think the system is flawed. You can't really make a great decision in class 11 what career you will choose. But anyway, this is all I knew, so that's what I chose, right? And I happened to be decent at studies, so I passed somehow. Um, and the thing is, I worked for good 5 6 years after that, right? But one day, what happened was I heard someone say, that look at your stars from your field, right? Look at those people you look up to from your field, uh, and they are obviously like very far ahead in the field, and put yourself in their shoes and think that is that what you aspire towards, is that what you dream towards, is that what you want to work for the next 30 35 years of your life towards, right? And the 2 3 people I looked up to from my field, I looked up to that, and while I have all the respect for them, sort of felt like that's not what I really want to be when I'm 50 55 and I'm 60, right? And it was honestly serendipity and a lot of luck that I was in Bangalore at that time, and I had friends who were part of the startup ecosystem. Like this is way back 2012, 13 when the Flipkarts were getting the fundings, right? There were these small meetups where 50, 60 people used to come discuss startups. I was part of that, right? I just happened to go there. And being a part of that system, sort of, your brain becomes always looking at solutions. And I faced a personal problem in the hiring space, and I saw that there was nobody who had a solution. I had a solution. And again, luck, my very good friend from school, he was a coder. He was also looking for a job switch and hence faced the exact same problem that I did. And we were just discussing one day over a beer, and he was like, "Look, there's this problem." I was like, "This is exactly, I'm facing that same problem, and we both know a solution. There's nobody who's built it. Let's just do it." Right. And young blood, I was like hardly 23, 24. I had nothing to lose, both of us. We just quit our jobs. And we knew nothing of the order HR. We knew nothing of hiring. We just knew we had a problem and we had a solution, and we spoke to enough people who said, "Great idea," and we just went out and we built it. Yes, we, because we were young, we were novice, we didn't really know. We made a lot of mistakes, but we also did a lot of good things, right? Did that for good 2 3 years, but then ultimately I had to shut the business down. Parallelly, I did a couple of food ventures, just following passion again, also. But then it became down choosing what do I do after my businesses have shut down, right? Which is the reflection point that everyone has. I was, again, it was also luck and serendipity that Downbox came along, but at the back of my mind, it was it was honestly very clear that people space, and having worked on it for 2 3 years, is what I was naturally good at. I was naturally good at getting the people problems. I was good at technology. I was good at numbers, right? And marrying those three is what I wanted to do, right? I had that in my head, but if it wasn't for a lucky coincidence of when I got a call from Rohit, the founder of Darwinbox, probably my life and you and I would not have been here. It's also that luck that happened, but I was very clear also in my head that if this happens, I'm going to take it. So the moment that opportunity came, I joined literally the next day. I spoke to him the next day I'm there, and all the way in Hyderabad, right? And then I was right. I had a flair for this. I love this function, and then over time, 7 8 years from then, I've grown and I've taken up larger challenges. So yeah, it was really luck also playing a big part, but at the same time, I had the courage and conviction to take this plunge. I backed myself. I started from zero because I knew, honestly, I by that time I got to know myself very deeply, that this is what I'm naturally good at, an intersection of three very weird things which nobody else I knew could do that. But I realized that it's a very good intersection. I'm naturally good at it, and let me just have the courage and the conviction in myself to just back myself that hey, I can do it. And touch wood, God has been kind. Things have been working out well.
Phenomenal. This is such a fascinating story. And I must say, something that would resonate with practically every engineer whom I know in this country, right? You end up taking this one course only because that's what your parents or your family wants you to do. That's what all your friends are doing, only to realize after 4 years that, hey, is it really worth it? But people are not able to shift. And I think that the difference in your case is you were able to make that shift, whereas a lot of people whom I know are not able to make this shift. What made you make that shift? Why do you think some people are not able to make that shift?
One for sure, I got to deeply know myself, right? And that's something that entrepreneurship, and you'll resonate with this, right? Entrepreneurship teaches you, breaks down every ego and every sense of entitlement that you have, and gets you to zero, right? So that you have nothing else to do, and actually really really know that okay, this is who I am, this is what I'm naturally good at, and you also very intuitively know this is what I'm horrible at, right? So I had that, right? Now not everybody, I'm not even recommending everybody does an entrepreneurship and goes through the ground to find themselves. You just have to be open to really stripping down yourself of everything that you've accumulated so far in your life. Start from zero and really ask that okay, this is what I'm really good at. That's number one, right? If you really are good at something naturally, you're really passionate about it, building a career around it is really going to be like fun, right? So what's stopping people is I think, or rather, what worked for me was one, I knew myself, um, and I have to bring it up that I also had the backing and the encouragement from my parents also, where a lot of, like, let's say you do this. By the way, you can't really do this very later on in your life. You have to do this earlier in your life, right? You can't suddenly say at 35, and let's say you're married, you have kids, you say, "Hey, I want to, start from zero again." You can't do that practically, right? That's a trap. I've spoken to many people who fall into that trap, right? And it's very difficult to come out of that at a later point in life. But early on in your life, when you don't have liabilities, don't have that many responsibilities, right? you can do it, provided where I got lucky was I had the backing and support of my parents. My parents were equally supportive when I said I want to build my own thing, and they were equally supportive when they said, "Look, sure that this is what I want to do." That worked in my favor. And third, again, I cannot discount, I cannot not, I have to stress is serendipity and luck. And if I think if you really work hard, and you work honestly, and just keep increasing your surface area of luck, luck and serendipity do happen. But when it does happen, backed by these two things, you have to grasp onto it, right? So for me, grasping onto Darwin box was like an absolute no-brainer. The call comes in, it was a 15-20 minute call, and I was like, look, I'm there. I flew, packed my bags and flew to Hyderabad the next day, right? Because I knew this is what I needed, and when it happened, I grasped onto it. Right? So yeah, mix of three things: get to know yourself really well, have the courage and conviction in yourself that you can do it. Hopefully, have the backing of the people you love who are supporting you. And when it does come, please bounce on it ASAP. Otherwise, it just goes away very fast.
Those are very good takeaways, and I think I echo them absolutely with anybody who's listening in over here as well. First of all, know yourself, really understand yourself, right? And knowing yourself is also a layered process. First, you've got to know what insecurities drive you, or what are you trying to really prove to the world. So you've got to overcome a lot of that, and then find that true north that you want to move yourself to. And then, as you very rightly mentioned, have the courage, conviction to speak about it. And last, no matter what opportunity comes your way, grasp it. And that allows you to move forward. And the world is a better place in that case, because then your natural talent, your natural curiosity gets sparked, and you're able to build the right kind of things around it, versus being stuck in a career that you never wanted. And then you hit a later stage where you have responsibilities and now you can't switch.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's I would definitely advocate it to everybody young who's listening. Right? If you have an itch, if you're restless, if you feel you're not doing enough, it's only net positive. The world needs more doers. The world needs more outside box thinkers. The world needs more people who are courageous, who can just take that courage, take that plunge, and do something to move our country and move the whole world forward. Because as much as I love working for other people, working at startups, corporates, while those eventually net do make a switch, but there are so many great careers who've sort of gone to die. In their through their entire lives, they have not scratched the edge. There's a joke yesterday I heard that if Napoleon Bonaparte was alive today, he would have been a PM at a company who's just winning laurels at every mergers and acquisitions, which is true and sad. Yeah, so just have the courage. I think it's net positive. You're not really going to lose that much in life very early on.
Very festive. Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing this, Rana. Um, as we look to wrapping up this particular intervention, are there any other thoughts that you'd like to share? Is there something top of your mind that you'd love to make sure people get to?
Sure. And I like to talk of my space, the space that I voluntarily chosen to be a part of and so passionate about. If there are people who are listening from the people space, in a way, everybody is part of the people space because we all hire, we all are managers, we all do L&D, right? My
Right.
just my closing thoughts is what I started off with. What really makes me angry is the way we've been laggards at technology. We need to change that, right? This is a function, ultimately this is that function which works with and for people, right? And the more we adopt technology, and we adopt technology responsibly, the more this function is going to get better, and the more that will impact people's lives, right? For example, if through the technology I can find out that, let's say, there is some harassment going on in some small city somewhere, which otherwise there was no way of knowing, right? And that changes and makes somebody's lives better. Um, uh, there's just a net positive, right? So my closing thoughts is this: adopt technology. The world is moving at a really fast pace, right? AI is here to stay. It's not a fad. It's not going away. It's going to be all pervasive, and we're going to move at breakneck speed. And if our function, people who want to be part of this function, who are part of this function, don't adopt it, you're going to be left behind. So there's this adage that says that chat gpt and AI is not going to take your job. People who know how to use AI is going to take your job, and it's so true, right? It is absolutely true. It's your choice if you want to be the someone who loses their job and cribs, or somebody who puts their right foot forward when you open the door. And today the door is just opened a little bit. So be the first one out of the door. Um, and it's only going to have massive dividends and ROIs in your career going forward.
Be the person who opens the door, adopt technology fast, be a first mover. I love what you shared earlier, which is even if it's not the full fledged solution, start out with something quick and dirty. Make sure you help your organization as well move in this path faster. And last but not the least, have courage in your convictions and what you truly want to do.
Absolutely, Vivek. That's a great way to
Ranak,
wrap up.
it's a fantastic conversation, fantastic thoughts. And may I add, it's been a delight and a pleasure to know you through this particular conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you for having me again. I had the best of conversations, and same. I had a lovely time talking to you, sharing my thoughts, and even learning from you through this in this last 1 hour. Thank you for having me, Vivek.